In this video, I'm going to be taking you through a core and glute routine. This is the first level, and you won't need any equipment but a resistance band and a yoga mat. And we're going to start off with warming up our wrists. I'm going to place them on the ground and gently sit back to get a nice stretch in your forearms. I'm going to repeat this anywhere from 2 to 6 times. And once we're out of that, we're going to flip our hands over so you stretch the top of your wrists. Now you're going to place your top of your hand on the ground, and you're going to get a nice stretch in through the top of your wrists as you sit back or rock side to side. Do that for about 4 to 5 reps. Just roll your wrists out in circles here, just to stretch them out. Now you're going to grab the top of your hand and rotate your bicep out towards the ceiling, and you're going to get a stretch along your forearms. You're going to repeat that 3 to 4 times. Now we're going to do some active wrist flexion and extension. Just put your arms out, flex your wrists, and extend them as you create tension throughout your forearms. Repeat 4 to 6 times. Last thing here before we get started, you're going to place your hands down and you're going to draw a circle with your shoulders going over your pinky, followed by each one of your fingers. All right, let's get started here. First exercise is 4-point kneeling liftoffs. You're going to start off on your hands and knees. You're going to press down through your right hand and left foot while lifting the opposite sides. And then switch. And you're just going to keep doing this back and forth for 10 reps. Now, the more you press into the ground as you're lifting off, the more core activation you're going to get. It's important to remember to keep your elbows straight and try and move through your shoulder blades as you're lifting up. Getting into our next exercise here, we're going to be in the same position, and we're going to keep our elbows straight. Our hands aren't moving, but we're pulling our hand down, both our hands down towards our knee, as if we're trying to roll the yoga mat underneath us. And you should start feeling a lot of tension in throughout your core. You're going to once again pull down, drive your shoulder blade into your hip, and make sure you're breathing. I'm going to hold this for 5 seconds and repeat 4 times. It's important to keep breathing throughout this exercise because many people have a tendency of holding their breath as they're contracting. The next exercise is side planks. So you're going to be on your right side here. You're going to take your left hand and put it around your hip, and you should feel a bone sticking out in the front of your hip. We're going to use that bone as a guidance of keeping good form. So we don't want to rotate out here, as you're going to see. You want that bone kind of pointing either straight or down into the ground. You're going to press down through that right knee into the ground as you come forward. As you're doing this, you should feel your right side working. If you feel some pain in your shoulder, just tuck your elbow in closer to your hip. And now it's important to maintain good alignment at the top of the position here. So your shoulder, hip, and knee are in one line. And this is going to help you get better core activity throughout the exercise. Now I'm going to switch over onto our left. I'm going to hold this for 10 seconds for 2 reps. The next exercise we're going to get into is a modified clamshell. So we're going to be in the same position, and we're going to get our resistance band here. Put it around your thighs, and you're going to maintain contact with both your feet the entire time. And as you come up into a side plank, you're going to open up your legs. So it's important to make sure you bring your hip forward, then you open up your legs, and then come back down. And you're gonna be feeling this in your glute. And once again, maintain that good alignment of your knee, shoulder, and hip. Every time you come up, you want to stretch that band out and then come back down. We're going to do 1 set of 10 on each side with a 1 to 2 second hold at the top. We're going to switch sides here onto our right side. And by now you should be feeling your glutes. If you don't, you may need a harder resistance band or press down through that bottom leg a little bit more, driving it into the ground. And getting into our next exercise, we won't need a resistance band, but we're going to be laying on our back, and I want to go through a posterior pelvic tilt. So if you have an arch in your low back, you want to think about tucking your bum underneath and doing a mini crunch to flatten out your low back, so there's no space between your back and the ground. I'm going to hold this position for 10 seconds, and you should feel your stomach working. Have your knee right over your hip and your hands right over your shoulder. Now we're going to get into the actual dead bug exercise. So we're going to extend our left leg and our right hand. If you notice that your back is starting to arch when you're performing this, keep your knee bent to 90 degrees. We're going to go through 10 reps just on the right hand and left leg. And make sure your left hand is not moving. You might have a tendency of letting it move without realizing. You should feel this all in your stomach, sometimes your hip. Going on to the opposite side. If this is too easy for you, then you could kind of challenge this one by extending out your leg or your knees straight as you perform this. Now that we've performed the opposite side, we're going to perform this on the same side. So you're going to be extending your left leg with your left arm. Now once again, if this is too difficult for you, keep your knee bent to 90 degrees. If you want a bit more of a challenge, then you're going to extend your leg out as you're going up. Keep your right leg and your right arm nice and still while maintaining a flat back. I'm going to move on to the right side now. I'm going to perform this for 10 on each side. And if throughout the exercise you're starting to get tired or you're starting to feel your low back, just take a break for a few seconds and then get back into it. Now we're going to give our abs a break. Going on to the next exercise, we're going to do some bridges. So when you're doing your bridges, you want to make sure you're getting that posterior tilt first, squeeze your glute, and then lift up. We're just going to do 5 reps of this with no band, just to get a feel for the exercise. Then we're going to put the band on just over our knees. I'm going to go through 2 different variations of this. So the first one, go about shoulders width apart with your knees, squeeze your glute, lift your hip up, and then once you're up, the top position, just spread your legs a little bit, increasing the tension on the band. Now remember to reset every single time back down to the floor. And you should feel this in your glutes, a little bit in your hamstrings. And the same rules apply. If your low back is starting to get tight, just take a break for a few seconds, then Then we'll get back to it. I'm going to perform 1 set of 10 on this. We're going to get into the second variation of the hip thrust. We're going to have the bottom of our feet touching each other the entire time. Spread your legs as wide as you can to maintain tension on the band, and you're going to perform the hip thrust again. Make sure you keep tension throughout the entire movement, and also performing 1 set of 10 of this exercise. And the next exercise is going to be a reverse plank. You're going to have the band off, your hands back, elbows straight, and you're going to come up into a hip thrust. This is going to work your hamstrings, glutes, and your shoulders. Now, if you want to get more of a stretch in your chest as you do this, a trick is to rotate your hands out so you have your biceps facing away from each other as you're going up. This will allow you to get a nice stretch in through your bicep, your pec, as you're working your glutes. Perform 1 set of 10. The next exercise we're going to be doing is the plank. Now, I put a pylon here in my low back so you guys have a visual cue as to the position you want to keep your hip. You don't want it too low where your hips are sagging. You don't want to come too high. And you also don't want to rotate your hips where it may cause the pylon to drop. So when you get into a plank, you're going to squeeze your glute and hold that posterior tilt for anywhere from 8 to 10 seconds. You should feel your stomach and shoulders working. And keep breathing throughout this movement. And the rest position here is going to be just going down on one knee, anywhere from 3 to 5 seconds, and then going right back up. We're going to perform this 6 times. Great job so far, guys. We have only a few more exercises to do. The next one is the bird dog exercise. You're going to be on your hands and knees here. And I'm going to use the pylon again, just so you have a visual cue of the position you want to maintain your low back throughout this movement. So you're going to extend your right arm and extend your left leg, bring it back and touch your knee with your hand and go out again. You want to minimize any type of rotation that may happen, which might cause the pylon to drop. And one thing you want to do when you are extending out is you want to keep that knee straight down towards the ground as you're doing this. And you also want to avoid lifting your arm or leg up too high. We perform 1 set of 10, and you could hold this at the end for anywhere from 2 to 5 seconds. One other thing that you want to remember is to look straight down as you're doing this. Don't look up, because then it's going to extend your neck and bring your back into an extended position. Now the next 2 exercises we've already done, but we're just going to revisit. Starting off with the plank clamshell. So you're gonna grab your band, you're gonna lay on your left side, put the band around your thighs, coming up into a plank and opening up your legs. I'm gonna perform 1 set of 10 on each side. Next, we're going to get into the butterfly banded thrusts. We'll lay on our back. This one we've done before. Feet facing each other, spreading that band as wide as you can, and doing a hip thrust. Once again, we're going to perform 1 set of 10. Make sure you really squeeze your glutes as you're coming up, and remember to maintain tension throughout the entire movement. All right, guys, it's time for the last exercise, the McGill crunch. We're going to take the band off, bend our left knee, and straighten out our right knee, and place both your hands at the bottom of your sternum. I'm going to use this as a reference point to move through. You're going to do a crunch, squeezing your abs, bringing your hands towards your hip. You want to do this and hold for about 2 seconds while maintaining a flat back posture. We're going to perform 1 set of 10 with a 2 to 3 second hold on each side. This is a very fine movement, so take your time with it, and you should really feel your stomach shaking to some extent as you're holding it in that position. Almost done. We're on our last set of the workout. Now we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Flat back, hands on your sternum, flexing your abs, lifting your head 3 to 4 inches off the ground. Remember to keep your chin tucked and don't poke your chin forward as you're coming up. And that brings us to the end of the workout. Great job, guys. Remember to perform this routine 2 to 3 times a week for 2 weeks with good form before advancing to the next level, which is the second video that goes through the progressions of all these exercises. Thank you.